My name is Claire Anderson. I'm 30 years old, a freelance graphic designer, and a mother to the sweetest 6-month-old baby boy named Aiden. We live in a quiet town in Vermont, tucked between forest-lined streets and the occasional chirp of robins outside our window. Our little white house isn't grand, but it's filled with laughter, warmth, and the kind of peace I never thought I'd find. Every morning starts the same. Aiden's tiny giggles float through the baby monitor just before sunrise. I scoop him into my arms, breathe in his baby scent, and for a moment, the world feels like it's standing still. I call it our sacred hour, just him and me, before the rush of work or emails. My husband, Nathan, is the kind of man most people would say only exists in movies. Tall, charming, endlessly patient, he works in real estate and is loved by everyone, his coworkers, clients, even my mother. He kisses me goodbye each morning, lifts Aiden into the air like he's flying, and says, "Be good for mommy today, buddy." Then I settle into my home office, juggling logo drafts while Aiden kicks happily in his bouncer next to me. Every Friday, Nathan's mom, Evelyn, comes over with a homemade pie and stories about Nathan as a baby. She calls Aiden her second chance at joy. My best friend, Monica, drops by after school, hair still pulled back from teaching 4th grade, and sighs, "I want what you have, Claire." From the outside, our life looks picture perfect. And to be honest, I believed it was too. A loving husband, a joyful child, work that fulfills me. What more could I ask for? But sometimes life doesn't break in a thunderclap. Sometimes it unravels quietly. So quietly, you don't even hear it until it's already gone. Nathan and I met 5 years ago at a community event. He was helping a local charity sell homes for low-income families, and I was volunteering to design their flyers. From day one, he made me feel seen, really seen, not for what I looked like or what I could offer, but for who I was when the world wasn't watching. When we got married, everything felt easy. He laughed at my jokes, learned how I took my coffee, and said fatherhood was the one dream he didn't know he had until Aiden came along. His mother, Evelyn, welcomed me like I was her own. After my own mother passed, Evelyn became the only maternal figure in my life. She would say things like, "You saved my son from drifting. He's solid now because of you." Even Monica, my best friend since college, once admitted, "If I had to pick one man I trust you with, it's Nathan." So when small things began to shift, I didn't think much of it. Nathan started coming home later, brushing it off as just paperwork or last-minute showings. He smiled less, laughed less. At dinner, he'd push his food around with his fork, eyes distant. I asked if something was wrong, and he always said just tired. There were nights he'd sit at the kitchen table long after I'd gone to bed, sifting through thick files and flipping through his phone. I told myself he was just being responsible, trying to provide for our family. But a small voice in my chest whispered something different, a voice I buried under trust and loyalty. One night, Monica and I sat on the couch watching Aiden try to roll over. She turned to me and asked, "Are you okay, Claire? You seem off lately." I shrugged it off. Just postpartum tiredness, I guess. But deep down, I knew something was shifting. A feeling I couldn't explain, like standing on a dock while the water slowly pulls the sand out from under your feet. You're still standing, but less steady than before. Still, I didn't ask more questions. I chose to believe in the man I married. And that belief would cost me everything. It was a Thursday night. Aiden had fallen asleep early after his bath, and Nathan said he needed to finish some paperwork in the living room. I kissed him goodnight, whispered, "I love you," and curled up next to the crib with the baby monitor close by. I remember waking up to the smell first, something sharp, bitter, like burning plastic. At first, I thought it was a dream. I rolled over and reached for Aiden, but he was already stirring, coughing in short, panicked bursts. That's when I knew something was wrong. The room was thick with smoke. My eyes burned as I scrambled to my feet and lifted Aiden into my arms. He was crying, frightened, and gasping for air. I pressed him to my chest and staggered to the door. But the hallway was worse. Smoke poured up the staircase like a wave. The heat hit me in the face. Wild and terrifying. "Nathan!" I screamed. No answer. I tried to go down the stairs, but the flames were already climbing. The banister was glowing red. The floor beneath my feet groaned. I turned back, heart pounding in my ears, and ran for the window. But we were on the second floor. I looked down, too far to jump with the baby. I coughed so hard I could barely stand. Aiden's cries were fading, his little body going limp from the smoke. I wrapped my arms around him, shielding his face with my shirt, whispering, "It's okay, baby. Mommy's here. Just stay with me." Then the world tilted. My legs buckled. I felt myself falling to the floor, still clutching my son. Sirens wailed in the distance. The last thing I remember was the high-pitched cry of an ambulance and the weight of Aiden's tiny chest pressed against mine. Then darkness. When I opened my eyes again, I was in a hospital bed, a white ceiling, fluorescent lights, machines beeping around me. My lips were cracked, my throat burned. I tried to sit up, but pain shot through my side. Tubes were in my arms. An oxygen mask clung to my face. A nurse appeared, her voice calm but strained. "Miss Anderson, you're safe. You were in a fire. You've been unconscious for 3 days." My mind reeled. "Aiden," I croaked. "Where's my son?" She hesitated. That half-second pause was long enough to shatter the world. "Your husband will be here shortly," she said softly. But I already knew. A mother's heart knows when something precious has been taken, and mine had. The door opened quietly, and Nathan stepped into the hospital room. But it wasn't the Nathan I knew. His hair was disheveled, his eyes bloodshot. He hadn't shaved in days. His shoulders were slumped, as if the weight of the world had folded him in half. He sat beside me, took my hand gently, and whispered, "Claire, where's Aiden?" I asked, my voice shaking. He looked down, his jaw clenched, his lips trembled. For a long moment he said nothing. Then, "Claire, I'm so sorry." "No." I shook my head. "No, don't say that. Just tell me he's okay." He looked at me and his eyes filled with tears. "He didn't make it." Those 4 words sliced through me like a blade. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't scream. My body felt like it had gone numb while my heart exploded inside my chest. "That's not true," I said, my voice rising. I was holding him. I protected him. He was breathing. He was crying. I had him. Nathan reached for me, but I pulled away violently. "Why didn't you come for us?" I demanded. "Where were you?" His voice cracked. "I was downstairs." I tried. "I couldn't get through the flames. I couldn't reach you." I didn't believe him. I didn't disbelieve him either. I was somewhere in between, suspended between grief and confusion, unable to feel anything but the crushing emptiness. Nurses rushed in trying to calm me as monitors beeped erratically. I screamed for my son. I begged for someone to bring him back. I cried so hard my body shook uncontrollably. And Nathan just sat there weeping, his face in his hands. The hours that followed passed in a blur. Doctors checked my vitals. Nurses whispered in hallways. Monica came, eyes red and swollen, but I barely registered her voice. All I could see was the crib beside my bed, empty. Later that night, I stared at the ceiling while tears rolled into my hair. I thought about the laughs, the first smiles, the soft weight of Aiden sleeping on my chest. And then I thought, how do you live in a world where your baby doesn't? That question haunted me in the stillness of that hospital room, but the answers hadn't even begun to reveal themselves. Not yet. Because as cruel as grief is, it would pale in comparison to the truth waiting just around the corner. The truth that would make grief feel like mercy. The next evening, as the sun dipped below the window blinds and cast long shadows across the hospital room, a man in a dark suit entered quietly. He looked to be in his 50s, with steady eyes and a worn face, the kind of man who had spent years delivering bad news. "Miss Anderson?" he asked gently. I nodded, unsure if I could handle another wave of grief. "I'm Detective Ron Hastings," he said, pulling up a chair. "I know this is a difficult time, but I need to speak with you about the fire." My chest tightened. "I understand," I whispered. He opened a folder, hesitated, then looked at me directly. Claire, what I'm about to say is going to be hard to hear, but I need to tell you the truth. I braced myself. I thought I had already heard the worst. I was wrong. The fire at your home was not accidental, he said. It was deliberately set. The words didn't land at first. You mean arson? Yes, and there's more. He paused, his voice growing quieter. Claire, the autopsy shows that Aiden didn't die from the fire. He was already gone before the flames started. I stopped breathing. What? What are you saying? Detective Hastings's voice was steady, but mournful. Your son did not die from smoke inhalation. His cause of death was asphyxiation. He had stopped breathing before the fire began. The room spun. My vision blurred. No, I said. No, he was alive. He was coughing, crying. I held him. I know this is unbearable, he said. But the timeline is clear. The fire was used to cover up something else. My hands trembled uncontrollably. But who would do something like that? He didn't answer right away. Instead, he reached for another page in the folder. Then he looked up and said, Claire, I'm so sorry, but all the evidence points to your husband. Time stopped. I stared at him. His words didn't make sense. Nathan, my Nathan, the man who read bedtime stories, the man who kissed me on the forehead every morning. No, I said he would never. He loved Aiden. He loved us. I understand this is hard to accept, the detective said. But Nathan had motive, financial stress, gambling debts totaling nearly $500,000. We also discovered he was being investigated for embezzlement at his firm. I covered my mouth, heart pounding.
There's more, he added.
He was having an affair. The woman recently told him she was pregnant. Shock rippled through my chest. I couldn't speak. The man I thought I knew, the man I trusted to protect our child, had destroyed us instead. And worse, he had planned it. The fire, the lie, the tears, all of it. Nathan had never planned to save us. He had planned to bury us. I sat in that hospital bed, hollowed out. The air felt heavy, like every breath had to claw its way into my lungs. Detective Hastings continued carefully, never raising his voice. We believe Nathan intended to use the life insurance policies taken out on you and Aiden to pay off his debts. Combined, the policies totaled just over $600,000. I blinked slowly, numb. I hadn't even known Nathan had taken out a policy on Aiden. He set the fire to make it look like an accident, Hastings went on. But something went wrong. You woke up, you called out, the plan unraveled. My head throbbed. My heart ached in ways I never thought possible. This wasn't just betrayal. This was annihilation. And it came from the person I had trusted most. A knock came at the door. 2 uniformed officers entered with Nathan in handcuffs. His wrists were bound, his face pale, his eyes swollen from crying, but not from remorse, from getting caught. Claire, he choked. Please, let me explain. I didn't look away. I didn't scream. I didn't even cry. You killed our baby, I said, my voice low, stripped bare. I didn't mean for it to happen like that, he said quickly. I was drowning. I didn't know what else to do. So, you chose murder, I whispered. He shook his head. I never stopped loving you. No, I said firmly. You don't kill the people you love. You protect them. One of the officers read him his rights. Nathan Anderson, you are under arrest for the murder of your son, Aiden Anderson, and for the attempted murder of your wife, Claire Anderson. You are also charged with arson and insurance fraud. As they began to lead him away, he looked over his shoulder. Claire, I'm sorry. I really am. But I said nothing because I no longer recognized the man standing there. He wasn't my husband. He wasn't Aiden's father. He was just a stranger in a suit of lies. After he was gone, Detective Hastings remained for a moment. I know this doesn't bring peace, he said gently, but you deserve the truth. And the truth is you survived. You fought for your son. You made it out. Tears slid down my cheeks again. But this time, they weren't just for the pain. They were for the strength I never knew I had to find. And the life I would have to rebuild without Aiden, without Nathan, without the illusion I had called my family, but with the truth finally laid bare. The next morning, the hallway outside my hospital room was quiet, eerily so. I stared at the ceiling for a long time, unable to sleep, unable to think. My body was sore, but it was nothing compared to the ache inside my chest. Then I heard footsteps again. He was back. Nathan, still in cuffs, this time accompanied by a different officer. The nurse asked if I wanted him removed. I said no. I needed to look him in the eyes one last time. He stepped in slowly, his voice barely above a whisper. "Claire, please believe me. I didn't know how to fix it." I sat upright. My hands trembled in my lap. "You could have told me," I said. "We could have figured it out together. We always did." He shook his head, eyes darting. I was in too deep. I owed money to people who don't wait. I thought if I could just get the insurance, I could run, pay them off, and then come back for you. I laughed. It was bitter, empty. You were going to kill me and then come back.
He looked down.
It wasn't supposed to happen like that. And Aiden? I asked, my voice sharp. What was he? A mistake? A loose end?
He sobbed.
I panicked. He woke up. I thought if I did it quickly, he wouldn't suffer. I closed my eyes. That sentence would haunt me forever. I held him. I whispered. I tried to protect him while you were downstairs preparing the fire. He collapsed into the chair by the door, head in his hands. I loved him, he said. I still do. No, I replied coldly. You loved yourself. You loved your freedom. But you didn't love us. Not enough to fight for us. Not enough to spare our lives. The officer touched Nathan's shoulder. Time's up. Nathan stood slowly. He looked at me one last time. I know you'll never forgive me, he said. You're right, I said. And then I turned away. He left. The door clicked shut behind him. For the first time in days, the room was quiet again, but not peaceful. Grief has its own gravity, and it was just beginning to pull me under. 1 year later, I woke up to the soft light of morning spilling through the windows of my new apartment in Portland. The air was different here, cooler, calmer. The kind of air that didn't carry memories in every corner. I walked to the window, holding my coffee with both hands, watching the street below slowly come alive. For the first time in a long time, it didn't hurt to breathe. Nathan had been sentenced to life in prison 6 months ago. I was there for every hearing. I listened to every word. I watched him shrink in that courtroom. Not just physically, but emotionally. Like a man unraveling. He tried to meet my eyes during sentencing, but I didn't look back. I didn't need to. The man I had loved was gone long before the flames. After everything, Monica never left. She moved with me, left her teaching job, and helped me start over. We're not related by blood, but she is my family now. Today we're going to visit Aiden's grave. At the cemetery, I place white roses beside his headstone. It reads simply, Aiden Anderson, beloved son. I kneel, brush my fingers over the engraving, and whisper, Hi, baby. Mommy's here. It's quiet. The spring sun is warm on my back. I like to think he feels it too. You taught me what real love is, I say softly. And what real family means. Behind me, Monica stands silently, giving me space. She knows this moment belongs to me and Aiden. I tell him about my work, how I've started designing again, how clients in Portland appreciate art that comes from somewhere real. And I tell him I'm okay. Not every day, but enough days. I survived. And now I live for both of us. That night, I sat by the window and opened the worn leather journal I've been writing in since the fire. Every page holds memories, pain, and progress. But today's entry was different. To Aiden, I wrote, I thought of you again today. I always will. The sadness hasn't left. But it's changed. It no longer owns me. It reminds me that what we had was real. That love, no matter how short, mattered. I paused, letting the ink dry. I'm building something again. It's slow. Sometimes it feels impossible, but each small step is a step towards something honest, something new. Monica brought me a cup of tea and sat beside me. We didn't say much. We didn't need to. Family, I've learned, isn't DNA. It's defined by who stays, who listens, who shows up when the world falls apart. Nathan tried to destroy me, but in the end, he only destroyed himself. I am still here. I am still whole, even if in new, unexpected ways. If you're watching this and you've been betrayed, hurt, or broken, please know this. You can survive. And not just survive, live again, love again, and become something stronger than the pain that tried to break you. If this story touched you, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs it, or just say hello. You're not alone. And maybe that's where healing begins.